Hi, and welcome to Across the Desk. Well, here we are just a few weeks out from the election, and as you'd know it, Ryan Walters has been sneaking back into the media here after being on hiatus and gone for a month after his libelous and defamation. Anyway, so now he comes out with a deal talking about boot camps for teachers, sending them to Hillsdale College, an ultra-conservative Christian college at that, to re-educate our teachers so that they can get rid of the liberal wokeness and not indoctrinate people while they, indoctrinate people into a ultra-conservative right-wing ideology. So Ryan Walters came back into the news over the last week or so and hit a really big thing talking about sending Oklahoma teachers to a patriotic boot camp from Hillsdale College so that they can train the liberal wokeness out of them with some ultra-conservative Christian BS. It's exactly what he said, and it's kind of telling that, as you know, when people say something about others and you're like, I wonder if that's what they're doing too, well, that's exactly what this is here. See, Ryan Walters is all against indoctrinating people into a political ideology. Of course, unless that political ideology happens to be ultra-conservative and very Christian, like Hillsdale College. Hillsdale College, this place is pretty radical. They get speakers there like Jeff Tucker, who is a Fauci nut. This guy can't stand Dr. Fauci. He calls him meek, says he's weak, and how he doesn't know anything about pathology. I mean, this is a guy, Jeff Tucker, who is not a doctor, going off on someone who is about what pathogens are and everything else. It's a crazy deal. Went to the Hillsdale College website and read this guy's spiel, and it's just way out there, fantasyland stuff, kind of like Dylan Law Group, who came out and also gave a speech at Hillsdale College on how the election was stolen. Yeah, those 2,000 mule things, that's true stuff. And how Merrick Garland is going after all these people in an ultra woke way, using liberalism to attack conservatives because, you know, they tried to steal an election or tried to pull an insurrection, or even worse, ones that are absolutely threatening teachers and administrators with hanging them in their front yard and going, whoa, hey, that's free speech. You can't attack them on that. You can't go after these parents who are concerned about their kids. That's all they are. They're just concerned about their kids. You can't go after them because they said to the administrator, I'm going to come to your house and hang you in the front yard. You're calling them terrorists for that. Yeah, we are. And it's in there too. So this is the Hillsdale College thing that Ryan Walters wants to send our teachers to make sure he takes out the wokeness, you know, because we don't want any political ideology to mix in the classroom. Wink, wink. Of course, if we send them to Hillsdale College, which I said is an ultra-conservative Christian college, well, I believe that's exactly what we're going to get. Because really, that's exactly what Ryan Walters wants, you see. Because to Ryan Walters, wokeness is anything he doesn't agree with. He doesn't agree with Democrats. He doesn't agree with liberals. He doesn't agree with them. These are his fellow Americans. Doesn't agree with half the country, at least half the country, if not more. So those people are woke. They're not really American citizens. They need to be gotten rid of. That's exactly where Ryan Walters is with this. This is where he's at. He hates his own citizens, his own fellow Americans so much that this is the lengths that he's willing to go to try to take out any kind of Democrat or anybody who leans left out of the classroom. That's exactly what this is. It's exactly what he wants to do. I want to re-educate these teachers, and if they gripe about any of this ultra-conservative stuff, well, then they're a woke liberal, and they can't be a teacher. See how that works? That way, see, we can check your political affiliation, because really, I mean, honestly, there really isn't a political test. So I guess they could give one, and maybe that's what he wants to do. He wants to give a political test for you to be able to teach our kids. Because, see, he's worried about the division that liberals bring in and the division they're bringing to their family. Because, see, that's exactly what Ryan Walters wants to do. See, he wants to train your kids that liberalism, that Democrats are evil. So if your parents are evil, you need to be against them. And that's exactly what he wants to do to households whose parents may be Democrat. Maybe their parents marked the Democrat on the voter registration form. He wants those people to suffer. He wants their kids to be unruly to him. He wants to be able to show those kids that they shouldn't be able to trust those parents. And then in the end, the kid, if he manipulates them enough, will be able to show that the Democrat parent can't control that kid. And then he goes, see, look, Democrats, they can't even parent. Because he, absolutely put in the seeds to those kids to rebel against their parents who may be registered as Democrats, or lead into the political ideology as liberal. Because to Ryan Walters, that can't exist in this world. It can't exist in America. It definitely can't exist in Oklahoma. So he's willing to go to great lengths to get rid of it. And I am kind of befuddled as to the lengths he will go. I really don't want to think how far he will go. But he's going pretty far. Going after a teacher from Norman because of her political ideology, and the way he did it by lying totally about everything about her, and having her with sent death threats and making her leave her home because of those death threats. This is what Ryan Walters did. This is Ryan Walters' America. These are his values. To go after people in Oklahoma who are registered Democrat or leaning liberal. He wants his supporters, he wants his followers to hunt these people down and harass them. He wants them to threaten them with death. He wants them to so they'll move out of the state. He doesn't have to worry about it. He doesn't be so anxious about living next to a liberal. And that's where Ryan Walters is on this. So what does this all say about where we're at today in a lot of different things? Well, I like to think of something that I was thinking of the other day. Benjamin Franklin's autobiography. Now, how does this all boil down to Benjamin Franklin's autobiography? Because I think if you're a liberal, if you're a progressive, if you're a Democrat, and you have those leanings, you need to read it. You need to read Benjamin Franklin's autobiography. It's a free download as an ebook. Go ahead, download the free reader from either Kindle, from Amazon, or the Nook from Barnes & Noble. Free app. And then download the free ebook because it's in the public domain. And that's Benjamin Franklin's autobiography. And you'll see just how much baloney this Hillsdale College crap is. You'll see how much anxiety and fear are in these people when you read Benjamin Franklin's autobiography. Because see, to people like Ryan Walters, all of our founding fathers were staunch Christian men. They were raised and perpetuated Christian values in everything they did and everything they wrote. This is false. Now, yes, the founding fathers, there were several dozen of those guys who signed the document of the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. Those are our founding fathers. Not all of them were conservative. Yes, some of them were. Some of them were actually devout Christians. Yes, they were. But you know what? Not all of them. It was one of the biggest contentions in the whole thing. Actually, the freedom of religion deal was in there so that we could be united. See, because the colonies themselves had a representation of a whole bunch of different religions. Quakers in Pennsylvania, Jews in New York, Baptists over in Virginia. You had a whole bunch of different types of religions and sects within religions. It wasn't just one religion. And you also had things called deist. See, deist. What's a deist? Well, it's somebody who's not in line with really any religion, but they do believe in a higher power. Yeah, I believe that there is a God, but I don't necessarily believe Jesus walked on water. And this is in Benjamin Franklin's autobiography. That part is. He talks about his atheism, really. His agnostic look on things. He even says, hey, I call myself a deist because I know even in this enlightened age, and these are his words right out of the book. He said, even in this enlightened age, if I were to come out as a full-fledged atheist, it would be the end of my political career. He knew this. So he latched on to being an agnostic, a deist. That is what Benjamin Franklin was. And there's a whole story about this. It goes into his time when he was a kid. See, he was the youngest of 12. His father was a devout Christian and had kept journals of every sermon he'd ever been to, kept a whole library of it. Actually kind of got Benjamin Franklin interested in books. And what did his dad do? Well, his dad, being a devout Christian, having 12 kids, was like, well, you know, my 12th kid here will be my tithe to the church, and I'll give him to the monastery. That's what he did. So at a young age, he gave up Benjamin Franklin to the church. What happened? Well, Benjamin Franklin really took to reading. And after a while, he got kicked out. About 15 or 16 or so, they kicked him out of the monastery. Not because he was stupid, he was far beyond that, but because he had lost his faith. You see, he didn't believe anymore. He asked way too many questions. He didn't believe Jesus walked on water. He didn't believe the never-ending loaf of bread and turning water into wine. That's baloney. So, out of all this frustration, they kicked him out. Well, this made his father furious, and so what he did was he apprenticed him to one of his sons that was a printer. Well, this guy was he was an alcoholic and a jerk. Benjamin Franklin was left to live in a stable with the animals. And after a while, his brother would end up stealing his money, come in drunk, take his money, say, room and board for living in a stable. Well, Benjamin Franklin got wise and started putting all his money into books because they were expensive. He put his money in there and his brother wouldn't touch them. So he thought, till his brother got wise enough and then stole his books and sold them. That was the end of it. After Benjamin Franklin was able to threaten him with grand theft if he didn't release him from his servitude, he was released and ended up going to New York, where one of the guys there, prominent person, was so impressed with this 18, 19-year-old person that had this library with him, because nobody really did at that age have a library of books with him or knew how to read at 19. So this was impressive to this guy. And after talking to Benjamin Franklin, said, hey, I got a buddy in Philadelphia, go work for him at his printer shop. And he talks about it. He talks about his trip over there. He talks about taking a riverboat over to Philadelphia from New York and how it was slow going and it took an extra few days to get there. They ran out of provisions. He talks about how they fished for cod. And that night at the campfires, it smelled so good with that fish cooking, and he was so hungry and so tempted to eat it. But he didn't dare touch it because he was a principled vegan. Benjamin Franklin, a principled, woke vegan. Says it right there in the book. 19. I mean, I don't know how more liberal or progressive you can get than vegan at 19, but that's what you got with Benjamin Franklin. He'd also later say as a statesman in Philadelphia that there would be a general house built in Philadelphia, generic in design, that even if the mufti of Mohammedanism from Constantinople were to come, he would find a pulpit at his service. That's in the book too. And if you don't know, a mufti of Mohammedanism from Constantinople is a Islam cleric from Istanbul. Same thing. That's also in the book too. So if you really want a shot in the arm, Democrats, liberals, progressives, if you really want that energy that will drive you to go, yes, I'm going to go vote, read Benjamin Franklin's Autobiography. It is a free download as an ebook on a free reader app. It's free. It's in the public domain. Download it and read it. Get the energy you need to go to the polls. And also see how Ryan Walters is such a fraud. See how this Hillsdale ultra-conservative BS is such a fraud. It's emperor wears no clothes. It really is. No, those founding fathers were all devout Christians and ultra-conservative. All of them were. No, they weren't. Yes, some of them were. Some of them were conservative. Some of them were Christian. They all weren't. Not even close to all of them. Thomas Jefferson, deist. Madison, he came out like, I don't believe in any of this. He was pretty staunch. He even had when they tried to sign him in with the Bible, he said, no way, I'm doing it on a law book. Means more to him than that. That's what he did. You can see, you can read about it. But this is the stuff, Hillsdale College, this is the stuff people like angst out Ryan Walters don't want you to learn. I want you to know about it. Benjamin Franklin's Autobiography. I think that ought to be a push. There's a push that ought to be in all school libraries right there. Benjamin Franklin's Autobiography ought to be in every school library. It ought to be. I want a big push for that. I think I'm going to try that. I'm going to see what happens when I say, hey, you know, Benjamin Franklin's Autobiography ought to be in schools and it ought to be taught. We'll see what he thinks about that as soon as he starts reading about all the progressiveness, all the liberalness, and all the wokeness of our founding father, Ben Franklin, who invented the library system we use today that conservatives hate. Invented the post office, had the post office enshrined in the Constitution that conservatives absolutely hate. And he's the main reason we have a First Amendment or the free press, as he was a press guy. He's the one who had that in there, which they absolutely hate, except for themselves. That's absolutely it. So I'm telling you, Benjamin Franklin's Autobiography, it's really a must-read for any liberal, any Democrat, or anyone who calls themselves a progressive. He is the founding father to emulate. I'm saying, if you are a Democrat, if you're a liberal or progressive, he's the one. He's the one you want to look to. You need to read his book. I'm pushing it now. Read his book. Read it, especially now before the election. It will really give you the energy and the drive you need to show up to the polls. It really will. So, here we have it. Ryan Walters giving that last bit of push here in the last couple of weeks. Coming out, telling you how woke Gina is. How she wants guys to play in women's sports. How she wants pornography taught to your 6 and 7-year-old. Which is totally lame BS. Again, here he is, having to defame, having to libel someone. Totally made up straw man attacks. Making mountains out of molehills because that's all he has left. That's it. The only policy he has is taking teachers to a boot camp. Patriot boot camp. So that they will learn to indoctrinate our kids in an ultra-conservative, Christian-only way. Well, this is Across the Desk with Kit Fairchild, and we'll see you next week.